Hello, Andrea St. Amand here. Today we're going to talk about passing, people passing, knowing when they're passing or knowing when they're getting ready to pass. And that can be, on one hand, an incredibly beautiful thing, or it can make you feel scared or helpless. Or even if you get to the point where it's like, why do I even have this information? It can make you feel overwhelmed to the point where you shut your gifts down altogether. So let's unpack all of that. The first thing is the beautiful side. So I'll give you an example. I'll give you a story of when my grandmother passed. I was on the phone with an accounting expert, accounting fraud expert, and this was when I was practicing law. And I was taking the phone call from home, and I was sitting in my living room, and my grandmother walked right in through my living room window. Her energy was still so dense that she tripped over my dog, and the dog was like, like somebody kicked her, and I knew what had happened. I could see what was happening, and my grandmother said, "Oh, what a beautiful dog." And I felt my grandmother's energy go around my head and then get bigger and more expansive and go. And it was like grandma's having a party. Like I could see all of her sisters, and I could see all these people meeting her, and it was the most beautiful, miraculous thing because my grandmother was very old when she died, and she didn't die sick. She just died very slowly of old age. So for me to experience her transition was like a party. It was a total celebration. I was like, Grandma is back. She is partying. She is like going. This is so exciting. And in fact, when my family later called to say Grandma died, which of course I already knew, I had to tone it down. I had to not be so like, yay, Grandma died. That's awesome. You guys. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So the other side of that is when it's not an old person or it's not someone who's been suffering, it's an unexpected death, or it's a child, it's someone we're not ready to let go of yet. And we get this information that they're passing. And it might even be somebody we don't know. But we get this information that they're passing, and it brings up in us fear and anxiety and helplessness. So let's talk about fear and helplessness separately. So the fear it brings up is our own fear. It's not fear for that person. It's our own fear that we don't want to deal with the grieving process. We don't want to deal with losing them. We don't want to deal with the loss of their physicality. We don't want to lose being able to hold them again, and that is perfectly normal. But we forget then that beautiful transition process for the person who is transitioning. So when we have this information that someone is transitioning and it's someone we know, and yet we're afraid and we're getting ready to experience all this loss, we've got to, and we've had the vision of them getting ready to pass, we've got to separate that. We've got to separate that normal human grief process from the vision that we had of them transitioning, because the vision of them transitioning is always going to be very beautiful, and it's their business, right? And I'll talk about that in just a second. But that grief that we're feeling, which is very real, and our vision of them transitioning, we can use that to help people. So let's put that aside for just a second, because we're going to come back to that. And let's talk about the helplessness part. So if we have a vision of somebody getting ready to pass and we know them, or we don't know them at all, we're like, why is this guy standing in my driveway or under the tree? And you just feel kind of helpless, and you're like, I don't even know why I have this information if I can't do anything useful with it. And that helplessness then adds to our fear of the vision that we're receiving. So what I'm going to suggest to you with the helplessness part is go with it. We are helpless, and that's a beautiful thing, because we as divine beings, each one of us are a divine being filled with free will. So we are helpless as to someone else's transitioning process to some extent. I'm going to tell you a great story. It's the story of Anita Moorjani. If you don't know her, you can look her up. Her last name is Moorjani, Moorjani. And she was a young woman, and she got a terminal illness. I don't think it was cancer, but she descended pretty quickly toward death. and she's in the hospital, everyone's gathered around, and she slips into a coma, and it's literally the doctors, everybody saying, it's her time, it's like she's gone, she's out. She does in fact die. She has a profound experience of love with her father, and she makes a decision in that instance that she's not going to die. And yet her body could not withstand the incarnation any further. So she knew at that point, if she came back into her body, she was going to have to heal her body. And she does a lot of work on self-healing right now. But the point of me telling you this story right now is that that was an instance of divine free will. That after she died, she said, it's not too late. I'm going to come back in and I'm going to live. So what does that mean to us when we see the vision of somebody passing, or we have knowledge of somebody passing? It means we are helpless. We only have that vision. We only have that knowledge. We observe it, keep it to yourself, watch what happens, and let them go. Sorry. And let them go. But it is a profound thing to witness. So what that leaves us with, though, having those visions is like, great, what the heck am I supposed to do with this? What am I supposed to do with this? So when we have those moments of connection with a passing soul, here is what is happening. That passing soul is still so connected to their human incarnation that we can really, we're like enough that we can pick up on communications with them much more easily than someone who's been passed for a long time. So when we see them, when we get that information, they're basically like knocking on our door, knocking on your head and saying, hello, I'm still here and you can see me. Hey. We don't need to help them pass. Human beings, as human beings, humans need help passing, but as spirits who have passed, they've already passed. So when they're hanging around and they're letting us know that we can see them and we can communicate with them, that's a profound gift that they're giving us. And that's a wake-up call. That's a marvelous, amazing wake-up call. So then what are we supposed to do with that? We're supposed to acknowledge that it's a gift and get some skills and do something with it. So there's several ways this can go. One, look around right now. We are not dying well in the United States and probably in Europe or I don't know where else, but we're not really dying well. People are really, really afraid of death. And people are spending lots and lots of money to prolong suffering and to keep people in the hospital for way too long, and then grieving over their loss and grieving and worrying about their loved ones after they've passed on. But if we have had that vision and we have that ability to see people as they're passing, and we know that transition is amazing for that person passing, even if it's an unexpected death, and even if it's a child, or even if it's somebody younger, even with all the grief and loss associated with it, we can give people comfort in death. We can give the loved ones left alive comfort in death, and we can comfort older people, we can comfort people who are in that dying process. That's a tremendous perspective that we have that other people don't have, and I'm convinced that we are supposed to be sharing that with some level of credibility and skills and groundedness, belief. So that too doesn't mean that we are necessarily called to being a medium. And if you don't have this particular skill of seeing people when they're passing, and for most of us it's hit or miss, right? Sometimes you see somebody, sometimes you don't, sometimes it's in a dream, sometimes it's not. It is the wake-up call. It's just a wake-up call, because anybody watching this is going to have their own intuitive powers and their own psychic abilities and their own mediumship thing. What this is meant to be is a wake-up call, because humanity needs your gifts. They need your gifts to be developed into skills and then to be shared and to serve people on the highest level that we possibly can. So if you're seeing people when they're passing, whatever it's bringing up in you, we've got to get skills to separate what it's bringing up in you from that message of the passing that we can then share with other people, and then use that as our wake-up call to hone into our own skills and hone into our own gifts. So I'm going to say that if you're seeing people as they're passing, you actually have a responsibility to do that. All right. Hello, Jessica. Hello, Len. If anybody has any questions, I'm so glad you guys are here. If anybody has any questions, shout them out. Otherwise, post them below, and I will. I'll answer them. I'll answer them later. All right.